Peace and all good from Franciscan Media. I am Father Jim Sabak, and this is the Inbreaking of the Word. So we have entered the 24th week of the year, the 24th week in Ordinary Time. There is now 10 weeks left to our church year, the year of Luke that we've been celebrating. The season of Advent begins a whole new church year, 10 weeks away, and all of a sudden it'll become Advent. But what happened this weekend is that we suppressed, basically, is what the word is. We suppressed the Sunday. We suppressed the 24th Sunday of Ordinary Time because of the need to celebrate the Feast of the Holy Cross. Now, if this was a solemnity, like Assumption, like All Saints, like these big, high holy days of ours, of course, we would always, they rank higher than a Sunday in Ordinary Time. And of course, we would go ahead and celebrate those if they fell on a Sunday. Generally, most feasts, we don't. Most feasts, we don't. On September the 22nd, St. Matthew celebrates his feast day. Again, the evangelist, the disciple, the apostle. But because if it fell on a Sunday, we would not celebrate him because Sunday in Ordinary Time takes precedence usually over a feast. Not in the case of Holy Cross. Not in the case of Holy Cross. And there's always a question to ask, well, why? Why? Well, because a lot of people think that St. Francis, the Feast of St. Francis, the Solemnity of St. Francis, is the beginning of our Christmas season. Again, holiday season, you move into Halloween and Thanksgiving and everything else like that. Right after you celebrate St. Francis. We as Franciscans would love to think of it that way, but no, there's something more. And this is where the Feast of the Holy Cross points to that something more. In 1 week's time, we will celebrate the autumnal equinox, in which basically we move from summer into fall, the last of the stages of the seasons within our church year. And there is something significant about that. You move from the warmth and the ease or whatever it is that we in the Northern Hemisphere associate with summer. In the Southern Hemisphere, moving from spring into summer. But in the Northern Hemisphere, the ease with which, we move into summer, the warmth, the conviviality, whatever it is, now begins to change a little bit as the weather gets cooler, and things begin to change, and the harvest is taken in, and we get ready again for winter. So this whole cosmological change that is happening, again, showing us, again, this power of God who has set the seasons and the times and allowed us to profit from them. We remember this, in particular, as we're moving towards the end of our church year, of our calendar years at church. What's more important, though, to notice on this day is that what we are celebrating is not the Feast of the Holy Crucifix or the feast even of the crucifixion. It is of the cross, the wood, empty of a body, because that body is risen and now reigns in glory and is able now to help us and to continue to lead us and to guide us, through the rest of our lives and to the rest of this existence until God returns, until Christ returns and makes Christ all in all. So the importance of understanding what this is about. Again, too many times within our churches, we will basically have, a crucifix at the back of it, particularly in the United States, the ever-present crucifix. It has to be a body contorted in pain, suffering, whatever it is, on that cross, to demonstrate the fact that we are in the Catholic Church. God forbid you have a resurrected Christ or a Christ in glory on that cross. And people will say stupid things like, is this a Catholic Church or not? Which is absurd and ridiculous. Again, it shows, our ignorance of what this cross means and exactly of who this person is on this cross when his body is present on it. Again, in the Middle Ages, we began to take a look, again, at the necessity of reminding people that somehow you are responsible for putting him on the cross. And every time that you sin, you drive the nails in deeper, you press the crown of thorns more deeply into his head. And again, if he remains on the cross, then where is the hope of salvation? Because he is dead. He has to rise. He has to rise. He has to rise. And again, as we move towards the last part of our church year, these last 10 weeks, our church in its wisdom, basically gives us this Feast of the Holy Cross to remind us that we are a people of Easter, that we are a people of resurrection, that we are a people of hope always. And because of that, we can never, ever, fall back into the egocentricities that can lead sometimes to us looking at ourselves as just filthy, awful, terrible sinners. And, shouldn't we just feel sorry for ourselves and constantly just look at how bad we are, how terrible we are? Again, doing that gets nothing done. Doing that just makes us remain. Again, it's stuck in this sense of guilt and of pain and of everything else like that. That is not called to be as witnesses in the world. We are called to be active and involved and showing this world something the world cannot see. And so this first reading that we have today from Numbers, in which Moses, again, the people are ungrateful, of course, because the Israelites are constantly ungrateful, and yet God never gives up on them. They are ungrateful for the food that they've been given because it doesn't have any leafy vegetables in it. Wouldn't you want a leafy vegetable to eat with your quail and your manna? But God doesn't see fit to do that, and so the people complain, and God sends snakes to bite them and to kill them. Again, it's like, God, what are you doing? But the people cry out to Moses, and they say they're sorry for not being appreciative of what God has done for them. And Moses is told to raise up a serpent, the same kind of serpent that is biting them and killing them, on a staff for them to be healed. They look upon that serpent and they will be healed. Again, a serpent? This is the book of Numbers, the fourth book of the Old Testament. And if we remember our Old Testament, chronologies, in Genesis chapter 3, it's a terrible, awful snake, Satan, the devil, whatever it is. It brings the original sin to happen upon this world and makes people eat a piece of what they're supposed to eat. Well, the serpent is evil, and the Satan and whatever it is, why is Moses holding up a serpent for people to gaze upon and be healed? Because God does what God does. And God takes our paltry, ridiculous, ignorant understandings of the faith, which are not grounded in what God shows us, but grounded in our own eccentricities, and shows us what things really truly are and how things truly are. In the letter to the Colossians, I believe it, no, or Philippians, I can't remember which one it is, but Paul writes, it's in Philippians, that Jesus does not deem equality with God, but empties himself, again, so that God can glorify him, not just because of his death on the cross, but because of what he represents, for us as humanity. It is what Christ does and says that matters. Humanity doesn't want to listen to that, and it tries to crucify him and put him out of existence so that we can be done with ideas like love and forgiveness, which are just unprofitable for us as human beings, we think, because it's all about getting what I can get. And God basically shows, no, this is what I want, and this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to raise him from the dead and show you all that you're not in charge, I am. To listen to that cross shows us this, the cross that is empty, shows us that we are powerless, to fight against God. And perhaps we need to embrace this God a bit more and care about this God a bit more. And then the gospel itself, in which Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, about, again, the understanding about it, that when he is raised up, that eternal life can be given to people. And that the reason why Jesus comes is not to condemn the world, but the world might have life and be saved through what it is that Jesus offers. Again, this very important reality, this very important truth, stop misconstruing it, stop turning it into judgment, punishment, because that is not why Christ comes. That is not the gospel. That is not good news in the gospel. Again, we celebrate this day to awaken us once again to who and what we are called to be and what the gospel truly is for us, as people who dare to believe. A sign of hope against despair in this world, a sign of light in the darkness in this world, a sign that shows that evil can never conquer for those of us who dare to believe. But do we dare? Because it's all a dare. And God constantly dares us, even today, to believe that God knows what God is doing. Will we take God up on that dare as we move towards the end of our church year? That is up to us. That is up to us. And hopefully that decision will always be yes for what it is that God holds out for us and for what it is that God can give us. And out of that, yes, it would become signs and vessels of God's glory everywhere. Peace and all good once again from Franciscan Media. May the Lord always hold you in his love and his mercy.